Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Jackie Fish and welcome back to another glorious Divide Et Impera online battle. Today we are diving right back in with the Colosseum tournament. This is another first round match and this is between the Editani and the Iberian culture group going up against Carthage. So we have another superpower. The last battle we had Rome versus the Inserbri, and unfortunately Rome has been knocked out of the tournament. One of the players getting beaten back by the Inserbri, and that is just it for the Roman culture, which is kind of cool. It means we're going to see a lot of interesting smaller factions making their way forward, and I think they definitely have a really good opportunity to take the advantage. Even though these major factions like the Greeks, like the Carthaginians, like the Romans are so goddamn strong, I think people really underestimate the power of the Iberians and a lot of the other tribal factions, because in Divide Et Impera, numbers count for a lot. They really do, and having these bigger groups of, you know, maybe not so elite infantry or not so slow moving and heavily armored, like the speed and the numbers like actually make so much of a difference. As someone who has played hundreds of competitive battles against, you know, people in head-to-heads and stuff, let me tell you that, you know, these factions are nothing to mess around with, and a good player with the Editani, with Gaul, with any other factions like that, with the Dacians, can really do some serious work. So as you can see, both sides are getting ready to face off. Let's take a quick look at the Editani. On their front line, they do have 150 man units of these Iberian heavy infantry going for that really solid center, which we definitely do see quite a lot. However, you know, in a lot of other battles that I have seen, most players have decided to go for much more of a sturdier center than more of an aggressive one. These guys do have 14 melee attack and 12 melee defense, so they are very much more of an offensive unit more than anything else, but still decent armor. They have 25 armor, which for the tribal factions is not too bad. Backing them up as we go further back, we do have the heavier infantry. These are the elite men of the Editani. 16 melee attack, 13 melee defense, and that 10 plus extra armor. So a really strong rear guard right there. And then we also have some heavier spears again. So a very kind of central focused force with these really deep flanks. We do have some more heavy Iberian Scutari over here. Again, a very offensive and defensive unit that can really support units. 18 melee defense on these guys is super scary, and a lot of the Spanish cavalry. This is where I think the Spanish factions really do benefit, is with this type of cavalry. The Iberian heavy cavalry, 13 melee attack, almost 50 armor, and a very nice morale as well. So 4 units of cavalry over on this side, and most of this is melee cavalry as well, which is pretty scary. We have 2 units of missiles. Again not seeing a big focus on missiles whatsoever, which is really surprising. Again, we have a ton of cavalry over on this side. My god, a lot of shot cavalry as well mixed in there. We've got some noble Editani cavalry. So very dense cavalry formations indeed, supported by some Iberian light infantry as well on the flank. So a very actually elite army from Iberia, not going for the numbers, really focusing more on that quality with some weaker units on the flanks. Actually, I say that this is still a very strong Editani unit. If anything, their weakest infantry line is definitely going to be this this group of 6 units right there, with a lot of elite reserves pushed in and a heavy focus on cavalry. And that's probably one of the reasons why there isn't as much kind of weaker infantry, is because they spent a lot of money on this cavalry, which is super scary. Then if we take a look at Carthage's army, on their front line, they do have some medium spear infantry. These are just the Furios. So a very mobile unit. 17 melee defense is very scary, and these are actually the larger unit size. So this is the, if you don't know, in Divide Et Impera, there are basically 2 kind of standard units. You have the ultra elite, which are going to be at this unit scale which they're playing at, 150 men, which you can see the Editani are. And then you have these kind of looser formation units, which necessarily aren't like the elite of the elite, the best of the best, but they are still very strong. And these come in the 225 man units, so it kind of gives you the extra numbers to make up for the lack of quality and allows you to do a bit more. Generally, it comes with the lighter units as well, so more mobility in these bigger man units. So, but again, they are Furios, so pretty good, and that's going to be, I think, the entire front line right there. So going for a much more mobile center, we'll have to see how that does pan out. We also, as we go further back again, another 4 units of just light archers. I'm so surprised. And we also do have some missiles, some javelins on that flank. But I always invest really heavily in archer fire whenever I play Divide Et Impera, and I just haven't seen this in any of the tournaments, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. Over on this right-hand side, We have a big boost of mercenary Iberian champions. 19 melee attack on these bad boys. That is absolutely insane. And they also obviously going to be throwing two javelins before going into combat. Super scary stuff on that flank. Over on the right hand side, we do just have a line of hoplites. Wow, mercenary Greek hoplites. So a very, very different flank. Obviously, center is light infantry. Right-hand side is heavy hoplites, slow-moving mercenary Greek hoplites. And then on the left-hand side, we have a lot of very, very aggressive infantry supported by cavalry. We do have, 4 units of the heavy shot cavalry. So Carthage going extremely well in on this cavalry, and an elephant back here as well. And I believe we also have an elephant and the same on the other flank as well. More of this cavalry again. Is this the same cavalry or is that the better ones? And that's Carthaginian Sacred Band cav on that right-hand side. And over on this side, we just have the, I guess, the mid-tier Carthaginian cavalry as well. So nothing too crazy. And again, another unit of elephants. And we also have some skirmisher cavalry, which is a unit I love to see and fight. So yeah, let's get this battle started. Let's get it underway and see what happens. Looking at the two armies, I definitely do favor probably the Editani army, just because they've got a lot of all-rounded units, and I think the center is going to get ripped apart by these Iberian heavy infantry. The 14 melee attack is just going to do a lot of damage, and there's a very, very slow moving flank right here. Like, this flank is going to take a long time to get down here, and once it's in place, I think just the more maneuverable Editani are going to be able to tear that apart. If this was maybe in the center, I think it would do a decent job at holding a bit better, because the flanks can kind of rotate around it. But because, like, right now, they're trying to quickly reform, right? They're trying to get their forces over, and the Editani are just charging forward. And just look how slow that flank is moving, because they're heavy hoplites. They do not move fast. And all of a sudden, look at this huge gap that's just appeared. And this is why I think having these hoplites in the center would have done a much better job, because your faster moving units could have rotated around. And you can already see Carthage is like, oh crap, he's almost upon me. I have to form up very, very quickly. And yeah, already pretty scary stuff. We do have some missile fire coming off from the very light missiles. And look at that, like, already able to do some decent damage, whittling down that HP overall shield. The Editani are closing in though. Now the javelins are going to get ready to throw off as a missile volley comes flying in once again. Yeah, I mean, there's just not really a lot of skirmishing going on in these tournaments, which I think is just a big missed opportunity. Because again, a lot of the time, if we go on slow-mo, a lot of the time in these battles, like, teams do have reserve infantry, and generally this reserve infantry back here is going to be really high quality. So having, like, some of the more expensive slingers just hammering away on your elite units is just so valuable. And you can also just really dictate the pace of the battle. But again, none of these players looking to bring any, which is very, very surprising. The Iberians throwing forward a lot of their frontal units. And again, this is exactly what these guys are here for, to absorb the initial volleys of javelins and everything else along them ways. Luckily, though, these hoplites have managed to set themselves up and basically get in formation. However, the Iberians are quickly charging forward, and if the Editani can close the distance on them before they form up, and I mean, this is looking pretty scary. If these guys don't turn around now, yeah, these hoplites are going to get slaughtered. Hoplites in Divide Et Impera are pretty much impenetrable from the front, unless it's like another unit of hoplites assailing them. They are very, very hard to kill. Oh, that's such a good javelin volley as well. But if you hit them in the side or flanks, they really go down very, very quickly. It's kind of like a very nice mix. And yeah, right now it just seems like Carthage has kind of got themselves in a very tricky situation, which they don't really know what to do. They're trying to reinforce this center, and it's just not really working too well for them. Having to pull back out of missile range, you can see a lot of the javelins going off and taking out a handful of these hoplites. A lot of these hoplite units are now down below the 15-man mark, which is not bad. And Carthage is really kind of focusing heavily on this flank and the center. Look at all that cavalry as well, that squadron of cavalry over on this left-hand side here, ready just to move in here and really kind of wrap around. And right now the Editani are moving forward, and again, this is great because the hoplites aren't involved. You know, if any of these Editani units charge directly in, oh, and Carthage are moving back. No, I'm going to get chased down. This is not good. You never want to get attacked in the rear in these Divide Et Impera battles. They're trying to pull back to their main front line and have that front line crash in. But this is, yeah, pretty scary. Luckily, I mean, this is one of the advantages, right? We're actually starting to see this really coming in actually very, very well. Oh, Carthaginian general, though, smashing into either side of this unit. What I was saying, though, was this is actually a real good benefit of having this lighter infantry on the front line, is they can outpace these heavier infantry. Yeah, the Furios spearmen who are running away in the center for Carthage are speed 3 and the Editani are speed 2. So they're actually able to move in. But this would have been a great opportunity to maybe try and chase down these hoplites and catch them, even though they are the same speed. They are heavy infantry, so I believe they are a little bit slower. Carthaginian cavalry now having to go in to try and buy them some time. Again, not a bad move. I don't think they needed to do this, though. They've managed to pull back quite nicely. A lot of missile fire going in on that Carthaginian general. Already losing 4 or 5 men. Not bad. And yeah, I mean, if I was Carthage, this battle is really messy. If I was Carthage, I'd say screw it and just start coming in here. Setting up your line, putting pressure on. But again, it's these hoplites. I think these hoplites are going to be a real downer because, again, there are now infantry fights fully engaged in this battle. A lot of the cavalry has been forced up, giving the Editani a huge advantage on this left-hand side. And this cavalry needs to be pulling out of here now. There's no way they should still be in this engagement. And again, yeah, these hoplites are just not the ones engaging in the front line. Like, they would be impenetrable in the front, but right now they're just kind of running around. Are they tired yet? No, they're still fresh, which is good. But yeah, I just think we're in a pretty bad situation. Luckily, though, and I think this is, again, one of the big problems with not bringing enough missiles, especially against a faction like Carthage, is their elephants. Elephants are so deadly in the cavalry fight. If you have an equal cavalry fight, or even a cavalry fight you're losing, you throw a unit of elephants in there. They are amazing at killing horses because they scare them, obviously, they're elephants, and they also just do a ton of damage to these smaller units. Really effective unit for just killing elephants. I mean, killing cavalry. That's generally what I use a lot of my elephants for whenever I play, is for taking down cavalry units. And right now, this just looks like an absolute mess. I understand completely what's happening here. They're playing a very much more of a skirmish game, and it is working. But right now, I feel like as soon as the Editani do clash, it's going to be an absolute shit show. I mean, sorry, as soon as the Carthaginians kind of start getting caught up, they're going to be losing soldiers here and there, and it's going to be really painful because their armies are being so split up right now. And I think very much a divide and conquer could be very much on the cards. Nice use of the skirmish cavalry, though, able to take down some of these lighter Scutari, but these are the light cavalry. They have speed 7, which I think is going to be the same. I'm actually still outclassed by the Numidian horses, but able to catch a few of them, and that's very micro-intensive as well. And what they could do if they really wanted to catch them is move around here and take them out. But as you can see, like, look at this mess. I have no idea what's going on this flank. The right flank has fully engaged, and as you can see, the Carthaginians are still planning on trying to pull back here, and it's a kind of a hard task. We are getting some of the infantry moving in, though, the mercenary Iberian traitor champions thrown in. And honestly, this is definitely the flank that Carthage should be trying to fight heavily on. They have a lot of very strong infantry. And the sooner they throw their men in here, the better it will be for them. I think they will outclass the enemy. They just have the superior men. Just looking at this is just giving me an aneurysm. It really is. The elephants are engaging, but the Carthaginian cavalry is moving around. The archers are pulling back as best as they can. A lot of these Furios spearmen have now been forced to engage, and this is such a messy battle line. It really is. And this obviously it just bides in the favor of the Editani. They're throwing in heavy infantry. They're able to catch some of these missiles now, and this is just giving me this is hurting my eyes to look at, honestly. But again, battles are scrappy, and it's awesome to see what the players do from this position. You know, it really is. The cavalry around, obviously, this cavalry is immediately going to go into these missiles, I would assume, or maybe into the Carthaginian cavalry that's currently stationed right there. A lot of the Editani are now pushing in, and this is perfect. I mean, I think the scrappier battle is, the better it will be for the Editani. Get a really nice cavalry charge off into the side of these spearmen, very close to breaking them with reinforcements turning up as well. The elephants are moving in, and as I said, this is a great position for the elephants to go flying into. They do some really good damage to cavalry. And obviously, cavalry doesn't really hurt them too much. This isn't like Theoden charging the Mumakil. The elephants will get stuck in there, and they are supported by spears, especially if any cavalry charges come in again like this as well to support this. They will do a really good job there. They can also bring around this infantry, hit them in the side, would be very good as well. More cavalry, though. The Editani cavalry doing a really nice job here at just pinpointing the back of these units and reinforcing, really helping out. And just a scrap of the battle back here. Again, the Carthaginians seemingly like they are going to be able to take this one down. Like, defend the rear very effectively. They're outnumbering the Eletani here. They've got their elephants in over on this side. But it's the central fights. Like, there's been so much pressure pushed back into the back. You can see, look how many infantrymen are now forced to engage in this. And I think the center, as you can see, is just not getting enough love whatsoever. These hoplites are like kind of mixed up in this fight. The hoplites that are engaged in this are kind of not in a front line. They're kind of being hit from every side. So yeah, this really disruptive battle that the Eletani have created and the Carthaginians deciding to kind of retreat back has really caused a very dysfunctional fight, which the Eletani will absolutely love to participate in. And even though they are going to be losing this cavalry, they're going to tear this central fight apart. As you can see, like, there's just all these hoplites are being hit from the side. They've been war cried, they've been intimidated, and you can see that morale is dropping. You see, just see the strength. If you hit the phalanxes from the side, how much more damage you do end up doing. And I think this center is going to crumble quite quickly. And the right flank as well is looking really good for them as well. The infantry just able to move around. The missiles aiding this fight. And again, that's why I think the missiles are so good, is because they can just really, you know, turn the tide of cavalry fights as well. You throw in one unit against 3 of their cavalry and then you just hammer the fight with missiles. It's just like a really good trade for you. And even with the elephants there, it's still a hard fight, honestly. But the Eletani are going to lose out. The Carthaginian general coming around, ready to come flying in there. Again, really nice move. And yeah, these elephants are just so effective in these cavalry fights when there's not enough missiles to kill them. And yeah, that's going to break 3 units of Eletani cavalry. That is very nice. However, more infantry now turning up to this fight. But if this cavalry just gets the hell out of dodge and retreats back, then they can move back in and really affect more of these lines. But yeah, look at that. The Carthaginian mercenaries have just been overrun. And even though the Carthaginian cavalry is still turning up, it's just a really scrappy fight, and they need to do some big work. Try and break a few of these units and then rear charges. However, the Eletani do have the manpower to reinforce this, especially with these javelin volleys as well. Oh, it's going to kill a lot of this cavalry. Yeah, I killed a good portion of that horse unit. They are going to pull out, and again, they need kind of a bit more than that, especially when the center is going so poorly right now. More infantry moving around in. They kind of need to take out a few more of these units, you know, just kind of bring these spears down to silences, because these hoplites have been completely enveloped now. They're being massacred. And as I said at the beginning of the battle, I think it's going to be the poor positioning of these hoplites that's going to cost them the battle. And yeah, look at that right flank has been absolutely crushed on the infantry side of things. And a lot of these guys are going to be coming flying around. And even though this cavalry fight, as I said, is going very well for Carthage, I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I think it's going to be way too much infantry. You can now finally start to see the elephants smashing in. And there isn't actually a silence to these elephants. Like, there's no way for them to really kill them. In the more recent patches, they have made it so that the elephants take more damage from infantry and less from range damage, which is awesome. But without the javelins, I just don't know if they're going to be able to take these elephants down efficiently, and that might give Carthage a chance. I mean, I doubt it, just because of the sheer amount of infantry on this flank. But again, anything can happen. Chain mounts are pretty common in Divide Et Impera with enough, you know, support to them. But even with the elephants in, this flank is not looking good. The hoplites just don't stand a chance. As they get more and more tired, you can see these units are getting winded, which is reducing their morale, their quality in battle as well. And yeah, the elephants are just doing some serious work. But it's just not enough. You can see the morale kind of going down with the Eletani. And even with all this cavalry still up remaining, you know, the constant fighting is just brutal. And the elephants maybe will start to come down now. But the elephants are getting tired as well, which dramatically reduces their strength. But there is still hope for Carthage. There is still pockets of resistance, which can still give them a good chance. But yeah, with these 2 units of phalanxes now breaking, frees up a lot of Eletani cavalry and also infantry that can now focus. But if Carthage can keep segregating these lighter infantrymen from the Eletani, then maybe they can just divide and conquer the enemy position. But again, it's just really unfortunate. They put a lot of pressure, a lot of killingness on that left flank. So these centers were supposed to hold with the phalanxes, with the 4-axe spearmen. They were supposed to hold the front line, and they've kind of crumbled. But they are able to break some more Editani units, which is nice, even with the spearmen moving in and engaging that cavalry. Still pretty effective. And, I mean, Carthage are still doing a good job. With the support of the elephants, they're able to really repel some of this. They've got some nice skirmish cavalry back here as well, just harassing the enemy general. Really good moves there, just trying to bring them down. But just look at all these envelopments right here. You got a big group here, even with the cavalry coming in. The sheer quality of the Editani's flanks are really, really paying dividends. And even with this cavalry coming in, the spears should be able to just turn and deal with that. More reinforcements now turning up. Carthage have lost a couple units in the rear, but I'm being very negative on Carthage. Just for the sole purpose of, I don't think they can come back from this defeat with the center looking the way it is and what quality is left. But you never know. They still definitely do have bits of the battle still going in their favor. But I just see the center breaking fairly quickly, and what they need to kind of do is just try and reinforce here. But they're just saying there's enough, honestly. The hoplites are now finally fighting a battle they want to fight, and that's going to be really good for them. Everything else is looking so bad, and as these hoplites turn in, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a cavalry charge coming in there, immediately just looking to break these guys. And yeah, the Editani are kind of surrounding this unit of hoplites. It's fighting on multiple fronts right there, on its flank, on its rear, and also on the front as well. Which obviously not going to be good, especially if this general cavalry moves in at all, if it needs to. Yeah, and they've managed to break a lot of this Carthaginian cavalry. So, boom! I think I can call this battle at this point. There is only 3 minutes left, and I think the Editani do have this. Yeah, they must have this, right? Because they're going to win this fight. They've surrounded the enemy units there. They've won this. There's 3 spare units there. Managed to break the cavalry. There's some elephants maybe scattered back in the distance. Yeah, the Editani have definitely won this. So, boom! Just like that, Rome and Carthage are both out of the tournament. How crazy is that? These factions you expect to really dominate have been taken out by, I wouldn't say they're bad factions in the slightest, because Germania and also Iberia have some really good quality when you get to their late tier units. The factions you would expect to probably win, just because they are a major power, have actually been taken down, and some of that's been to, players playing really well, slight mistakes, and that's a problem as well. A lot of these matches, they are just best of ones in the first round. So all you have to do is make one mistake, and the battle is dramatically over. You make a silly mistake, you look back on, and you're like, oh my god, that was so stupid of me. Why the hell did I do that? And that's just your tournament gone, which is very brutal, but that is tournament life. And I think the Carthage player will be kicking himself for sticking them hoplites on that flank. I think if he just put them in the center, it would have been really easy to maneuver his battle line. But sticking your slowest unit on that far flank, the Editani could really just disrupt the enemy formation. And when you do have a battle line that is just that messy, you guys saw when I was trying to commentate it, I didn't know what the hell was going on. When you have a battle line that's that messy, and you're trying to micromanage 40 units, because again, do keep in mind, this is a 40v40 unit battle tournament, which is a lot of units to micromanage. You just get lost in the sauce, and you just don't know what you can do. There's just you forget about units because there's just so many blobs everywhere. It's quite hard. In Divide Et Impera, it's very important, the facing of your unit and what you're fighting, and to micromanage them hoplites and stuff. So yeah, I think if the Carthage player just had his hoplites in that center, he could have rotated his lighter infantry, mixed it around a little bit more, and was able to do what he wanted to do, because I think he wanted to play more about skirmish playstyle, a little bit more with the Editani, which I think is a great playstyle. He just, if them hoplites were in the center, he could have just fell back, and again, it's not like any of them Iberian infantry would have been able to break that hoplite wall from the front. They would have to have worked on that center. And that's when your elephants really come into play, because even though that Carthage cavalry got completely overrun, the elephants made such a big difference in that battle with the carry-on cavalry. So yeah, it was just a real shame. Yeah, look at that. And again, keep in mind that all of these kills on the elephants were all on basically horses, pretty much. And that's a lot. That's a lot of kills right there. The Carthaginian Numidians did amazing. Like, they all did really good. It was just, yeah, unfortunately, these hoplites, I think, cost Carthage a battle. And as you can see, like, kill-wise, it wasn't that dramatically different. You know, there was under 1,000 kills in this battle. There was like 700 kills in this battle. So I think, you know, if Carthage just held that center, it would have given him a better chance, I think. But instead, he just got really, really disorganized, and that cost the battle, I think. But obviously, big shout out to both players for playing a very, very good start to the tournament. Obviously, when you do only have one of these battles, it can be a little bit stressful indeed. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this battle. If you do enjoy these tournament battles, do make sure to drop a like and a comment down below. I'm really having a lot of fun commentating these. I might try and do one more battle from the first round, and then I'll wait till the quarterfinals kick off and do a few more battles there if that's what you guys want to see. However, if these battles do really well, I'm happy to keep on casting more tournament engagements because yeah, they're great. And obviously, big shout out to the Colosseum Discord. I'll link it down below in the description. If you're looking for more people to play Divide Et Impera with, then make sure you use the link and join their Discord. It's still just a great Discord to find some people to play multiplayer with. Obviously, everyone's trying to play at a high standard as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.